Hello everyone, happy OT month. So today I wanted to make this video on applications for occupational therapy school in Texas because applications are coming up in July and I just want to offer some advice for those applying or planning to apply in the future. To start, before you apply, know what schools you want to apply to. There's lots of programs and schools in Texas. Some of them require different courses or supplemental applications. So to prepare for that, I suggest you research on your school before you apply. I wanted to apply to 3 schools, but then application costs were a little too much, and one school had like a requirement for grades and my grades weren't that good. When you know what school you want to apply to, register for an OCUS account. OCUS is the centralized application system to apply to OT schools or programs in the United States. This is where you'll be putting your recommendation letters, transcripts, and everything, and then you'll just send that one application to multiple schools, whichever schools you want to choose or apply to. Some schools that I know of in Texas do require like a supplemental application. Either it's their own application or they make you apply through the Texas application system, which is Apply Texas. But depending on your school, you'll have to just follow what they say. Applications for OT schools though, I think are very generalized. They have the same requirements for most of them, but always double check with your school or whatever school you want to go to, their criteria that you have to meet. The first requirement I'll be talking about is prerequisites, the classes you have to take before you can apply and get accepted. Most of the required courses consist of like human anatomy and physiology 1 and 2 with lecture and lab. Then there's elementary statistics, abnormal psychology, developmental psychology, and depending on the school, there's also physics. But schools do require you to have like a C or above in these classes. There was one school that I remember that required a B and above, so that's why I got rejected from that one. But I'm so glad the school that I got accepted into do not require physics. The second requirement I'm going to be talking about is hours, shadowing and volunteering hours. From what I know, the minimum is 20, but there are some schools that require 40 instead. You just have to check on the requirements for the school, honestly. But an honest tip when you're trying to get these hours is that I don't recommend you trying to log 200 hours or even more. You should honestly try to get the minimum and as much as you can afterwards. That way you can rest assured that you have enough hours going. But I see so many people logging like 100, 200, sometimes 300 hours, but it all goes to waste because those hours are only valid for a certain amount of time during your application period. That's why I wouldn't suggest wasting so much time trying to get that many hours. I'd rather focus on like other important things like the GRE maybe, which is the GRE. The GRE is the standard testing, kind of like the MCAT, but a little less intense. To me, it reminds me of the SAT in high school, but there really isn't like a definite way to study for that test. My suggestion is to like practice math problems, science problems, do some reading and expand your vocabulary to help you on the GRE. There are some like prep books and I think they do help, but I just don't really like using them because sometimes the materials you're learning from that book isn't on the test, so I just think it's a waste. I did take the GRE, but that requirement was waived by the schools I applied to due to the pandemic. But I think they do require it now though. Moving on, the next requirement would be the personal statement. This is something I actually worried about when I was applying to OT school. I didn't know how to make it like good, you know, but from what I've learned, my recommendation is to write about something that's like impactful, you know, something that made you suddenly realize you want to be an OT. For example, maybe you have a disorder, or you know someone with a disorder, and you saw how like the change in that person was when they started doing OT therapy or something like that, something that just changes the way how you view occupational therapy. Just write about something that really shows them why you want to be an OT and why you deserve a spot in the OT school. I just think whatever you write should be really different, special to you, and not just stereotypical like other people, something like that. Just wow. Now, besides the personal statement, the main issue I worried about was recommendation letters from like the OTs and teachers and stuff. The minimum that schools require you is 3, but you can have a max up to 5. I'm glad that whoever wrote my letter recommendations had good things to say about me, and I'm so grateful for them, because without them I wouldn't be here now. So thank you to those who wrote me my letter recommendations. But some advice for those of you who are trying to get letter recommendations, I suggest you build good, positive relationships with your supervisor, your boss, whoever you're trying to get to write your recommendation letters, professors even, you know. I had a friend who applied to PT school, but they got rejected because the PT they had shadowed wrote them a bad recommendation letter. Yes, people can write bad recommendation letters if they believe that you're not a good candidate. That can happen. So I recommend that you be sure that the person you're asking for a letter of recommendation will write a positive one. Otherwise, your chances of getting in are decreased very slim. So I think those are the main things I believe you should focus on when preparing your application for OT school. Once you get everything done and you're sure that you've met the requirements, always double check your information before you submit it, because once it's done, it's gone. So good luck on that. So after you submit your application, depending on the school or the school's deadline, they begin sending out those interview invites for you to interview with the school. From what I've heard, there could be as many as 600 students applying, but only 160 get invited for interviews. And out of that 160, an average of 48 to 50 students get accepted. That's why it's very competitive between the applicants. However, I strongly believe that there should never be any aggressiveness or hostility between applicants. That only makes the experience sour and unenjoyable. Besides, you know, they might be your future classmates, so don't offend them. Before I end this video, I do want to offer some tips on the interview. The questions are confidential, but most of these questions from the interviewers are just get to know you questions. They want to know your personality and how you'll fit in if you are accepted into the program. What I don't suggest is preparing answers, because you're gonna sound very scripted and it sounds very rehearsed. I don't think they like that. They might not like it. I don't like it. I think you should answer truthfully and don't try to make yourself seem like a very good person. Show them that you're a great person overall, and having you in the program will be very fun or something. Just strut your stuff. Show them what they would be missing. Make them want you to be in their program. Anyways, I think I've talked too much today, but I hope this video video helps someone out there when they apply to OT school. And I wish those that are applying a good luck, and you could definitely do it. Just remember, prepare things early and you'll get it. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope I did not annoy you too much with all this advice and suggestions, and I hope you'll continue watching. So thank you and good night.